A few years ago, I met Min, a man who seemed to have life all figured out, at least on the surface. He wore tailored suits that looked like they came straight out of a magazine, drove a shiny black sedan that turned heads at every stoplight, and had this effortless charm that made him the life of every gathering. At dinners with friends, he was always the one who picked up the bill with a casual wave of his hand, as if generosity flowed endlessly from his pockets. To the outside world, Min was the definition of successful. But what most people didn't know, what even his closest friends never suspected, was that behind the polished image, he was barely keeping his head above water. His bank account was a battlefield of incoming paychecks and outgoing expenses that canceled each other out almost instantly. He was living paycheck to paycheck, constantly juggling bills, and quietly suffocating under a mountain of credit card debt. It wasn't because Min didn't earn enough. His job paid well above the average. It was because of the invisible trap of small, daily financial choices that seemed harmless in the moment but lethal over time. Osham lunches out every day instead of packing food from home, upgrading his phone the moment a new one hit the market, even when his current one worked perfectly fine, buying clothes just because they were on sale, not because he needed them, saying yes to every social invitation without a budget because he didn't want to look cheap. Each choice felt like a drop in the ocean, but over the years, those drops filled the bucket, and that bucket was leaking faster than he could refill it. The breaking point came one night when he got a call from his bank about overdraft fees, right after spending hundreds on a weekend getaway he didn't even enjoy. That night, restless and scrolling through articles, he stumbled on a quote from Seneca. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. It was like someone had slapped him awake. In that moment, he saw the truth with brutal clarity. His real problem wasn't a lack of income. It was a lack of discipline. He had been chasing the illusion of wealth instead of building the foundation for it. And that foundation wasn't about making more money. It was about mastering himself. It was about trading instant gratification for long-term freedom. That night, Min decided he wasn't going to just make more money. He was going to think like a Stoic and live like one. Financial bad habits rarely feel dangerous in the moment. In fact, that's what makes them so deadly. They disguise themselves as harmless choices, little rewards you tell yourself you've earned, small splurges you promise won't happen again. But like water dripping onto stone, their power lies in repetition. You don't wake up one day drowning in debt because of a single decision. You get there through hundreds, maybe thousands of tiny leaks you ignored. The coffee you buy every morning instead of brewing it at home. The subscription services you signed up for just to try and forgot to cancel. The dinners out that turn into late-night drinks. The limited-time sales that trick you into buying things you didn't need in the first place. Every swipe of the card feels insignificant, but each one quietly erodes the financial stability you think you have. The Stoics warned against living unconsciously, against drifting through life without examining your choices. And yet, most of us do exactly that with money. We avoid looking at our bank statements because they make us uncomfortable. We justify spending as self-care without realizing that true self-care is securing our future, not sabotaging it. We tell ourselves we'll start saving when we earn more, ignoring the fact that if we can't manage a small amount well, we'll never manage a large amount. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor." And in modern life, craving more is a habit the world constantly feeds. Social media parades an endless stream of things to want. Influencers sell you a lifestyle you can't afford, and society rewards consumption more than restraint. But here's the cost of those habits. They don't just drain your bank account. They drain your options. Every unnecessary dollar spent today is a dollar you can't invest, a dollar that can't grow into more. Over time, that's the difference between financial independence and being stuck in a job you hate because you can't afford to leave. The real tragedy, bad habits don't just rob your present, they rob your future without you noticing until it's too late. The late-night online shopping spree isn't just about the $50 you spent. It's about the opportunities you've traded away in 5 years' time when that $50 could have been $200 or $300 through smart investing. The Stoic path to wealth begins with awareness, with the courage to face where your money is really going and the discipline to change course before the small leaks sink the ship. Because time is a resource you can't get back once it's gone, and how you use it each day is shaping the life you'll be living tomorrow. The Stoic connection to wealth has nothing to do with hoarding money or chasing status. It's about control, clarity, and living in alignment with your values. The Stoics believe that external things, like wealth, are indifferent. They don't define your worth as a person. What matters is how you handle them. Money can be a tool for freedom or a chain that binds you tighter every year. And the deciding factor is not how much you make, but how you think about what you have. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself." That doesn't mean you ignore your finances. It means you master them so they serve you rather than the other way around. In the modern world, financial bad habits are the opposite of Stoic discipline. They put your future in the hands of impulses, emotions, and marketing tactics designed to keep you wanting more. The Stoics would see this as surrendering your agency, allowing external forces to dictate your decisions instead of exercising your power over them. Epictetus reminded his students that wealth is not measured by the number of possessions, but by the ability to live without being owned by them. That's why a Stoic path to wealth starts with redefining success, not as the ability to spend, but as the ability to choose. Bad habits erode that choice because they keep you dependent on the next paycheck, on credit cards, on a lifestyle that always demands more than it gives. The Stoics practice voluntary discomfort, sometimes eating simple meals, wearing plain clothes, or living without certain luxuries, not because they hated comfort, but because they wanted to prove to themselves they could thrive without it. This builds a kind of inner wealth that no market crash, job loss, or economic downturn can take away. In the same way, breaking financial bad habits is less about deprivation and more about proving to yourself that you're in control. Every time you resist the urge to spend out of boredom or comparison, you're practicing the same discipline the Stoics cultivated daily. You're building resilience, patience, and the freedom to act from reason instead of impulse. Seneca warned that we often live as if life is infinite, wasting both time and resources as though there will always be more. But each dollar you spend without thought is a piece of your finite future handed over to something that might not matter tomorrow. The Stoic connection to wealth is simple but powerful. Live with intention, master your habits, and see money as a means to live well, not as the measure of your life. Because in the end, it's not the size of your bank account that determines your freedom, but the discipline you have built in how you earn, spend, and save. 3 Stoic practices can transform your relationship with money and put you firmly on the path to lasting wealth, not just in the sense of numbers in an account, but in the deeper sense of freedom, security, and peace of mind. The first is the practice of conscious spending. The Stoics taught us to pause before reacting, to put space between impulse and action. Apply that to your finances, and it means examining every purchase not just for its price, but for its purpose. Ask yourself, does this expense serve my values, or is it serving someone else's marketing strategy? Before buying, pause for 24 hours, a cooling off period to see whether the desire is genuine or fleeting. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Translate that into money. If it's not necessary, if it doesn't bring true value to your life, don't spend it. This discipline shifts your spending from autopilot to intentional action, ensuring your money is allocated toward the life you want, not the life advertisers sell you. The second is the habit of strategic saving. Seneca warned against living as if we have endless time, and the same is true for wealth. A Stoic knows that external fortune can change in an instant. Today's job could vanish tomorrow. The market could crash. A sudden illness could upend your plans. This isn't pessimism, it's realism, and it's why Stoics practice preparing for adversity before it arrived. Financially, this means building an emergency fund before you chase luxury. It means treating savings as non-negotiable, like paying a bill to your future self. Automate transfers into your savings or investment accounts, so the decision is made before temptation can creep in. In Stoic terms, this means This is your fortress, a defense against life's inevitable storms. And here's the thing, when you have a solid foundation, you act from strength, not desperation. Opportunities that others miss because they're strapped for cash become open to you. Strategic saving isn't about hoarding. It's about creating the freedom to make choices without being shackled by fear or scarcity. The third is practicing voluntary discomfort with your finances. This might sound strange in a world obsessed with upgrades and treating yourself, but it's one of the most powerful tools the Stoics use to cultivate strength. Epictetus advised occasionally living as if you had far less than you do, eating simple meals, sleeping without certain comforts, wearing basic clothes, to remind yourself that you can survive, even thrive, without the extras. Applied to money, this might mean spending a month living well below your means, cutting discretionary expenses, cooking at home instead of eating out, finding joy in free or low-cost activities. Not because you have to, but because you choose to. The benefit is twofold. You strengthen your resistance to lifestyle inflation, and you discover how much of your happiness comes from things money can't buy. This practice inoculates you against fear of loss, because you've proven to yourself that your well-being doesn't depend on maintaining a certain level of consumption. When the entrepreneur who once struggled with her nights, applied these 3 Stoic practices to her finances, the change was dramatic. She started with conscious spending, tracking every expense, and asking whether it aligned with her goals. She discovered that dozens of small, mindless purchases were eating away at her potential investments. Then she built her savings habit, automating transfers and watching her emergency fund grow. That alone reduced her stress more than any spa day or new gadget ever had. Finally, she embraced voluntary discomfort, taking a minimalist month where she cut back on all non-essentials. Far from feeling deprived, she felt liberated. She realized she could live richly without spending richly, and that every dollar she didn't spend unnecessarily was a brick in the foundation of her financial independence. Over time, these practices compounded, just like interest. Her savings grew, her investments started working for her, and most importantly, she no longer felt controlled by money. She controlled it. And that's the heart of the Stoic path to wealth, mastering your habits, so your wealth serves your life, not the other way around. If you commit to these 3 practices, conscious spending, strategic saving, and voluntary discomfort, you'll find that financial freedom isn't just a dream for someday. It's a discipline you build today, one intentional choice at a time, until one day you wake up and realize you've not only built wealth, but you've built yourself into the kind of person who can truly enjoy it. Bad financial habits aren't just about losing money. They're about losing control over your life. The Stoics understood that true wealth isn't measured only in gold or property, but in freedom, peace of mind, and the ability to live according to your values. And that freedom is built not in sudden windfalls, but in the quiet discipline of daily choices. You don't have to rewrite your entire financial life tonight. Start small. Maybe you commit to tracking your spending for the next week. Maybe you set up an automatic transfer into savings, even if it's just $5 a day. Maybe you go one day without buying anything non-essential, just to prove to yourself that you can. Remember Marcus Aurelius's reminder. You have power over your mind, not outside events. You may not control the economy, your boss's decisions, or the next market swing, but you can control how you prepare, how you spend, and how you save. Every intentional choice you make is a brick in the fortress of your financial independence. So the next time you're tempted to buy something you don't need or put off saving for later, ask yourself, is this leading me toward the life I want? Because in the end, wealth isn't built in a day, but it is built every day. Start building yours now. Your future self is counting on you.